Welcome everybody to another edition of the Glorious Wrestling Podcast. My name is Nick Negropontis, and with great balls of fire, a few days away, it's time to break down the balls of Jericho and go through the full card. I'm joined as always by Dem Panopoulos, who is on the line celebrating his American independence.
I can't believe you went with balls of Jericho, but that's fantastic to be recording another one of these. You know, a lot of good pay-per-views, good quality pay-per-views around this time of the year, so looking forward to getting straight into it.
Clearly the public demanded another episode. I think we had something like a crazy 17 views on our Money in the Bank podcast, so, I mean...
But we continue to grow where, you know, at the moment we're the Miz Garage, but with time we're hoping to become the Miz.
Yeah, we're trending upwards very slowly. Anyway, we're here to break down Great Balls of Fire, so let's break down some Great Balls of Fire, and I'm going to try and keep track of how many times I have to say Great Balls of Fire during this podcast. So let's get straight into the main event, because obviously that is the big match and the one that everyone wants to discuss. Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe for the Universal title. Regardless of the result, does this feud need to continue after Great Balls of Fire?
I think it deserves to continue, but I don't think it will. I think it's just highlighted how much of a main eventer Samoa Joe really is.
Agreed.
Like, he's incredible. I mean, I always thought he'd be... I used to watch TNA back in the day, and you just saw how good he was. NXT, you saw how good he was. Towards the end of the run, like any NXT performer, you know, towards the end of their time in NXT, they sort of taper off a little bit in terms of popularity because they're trying to push other people.
Yeah.
But Joe's really just... He's nearly been the best person to come up to the main roster to click straight away, even better than Kevin Owens. Like, I think he stood toe to toe with Brock Lesnar, and he's looking like a legitimate contender. He's not going to win, but he's proven that he should be the champion within a year.
Yeah, agreed. I think with Joe, I think anyone who actually knew him knew he was going to dominate this feud and show that he was an absolute main event talent. Obviously, he still had to prove that to the big wigs backstage, and I think he's absolutely done that with this feud. So I don't think it's going to continue to SummerSlam, but at the same time, this is just a showcase of what Joe can do. Is Lesnar working as a part-time champion? Obviously, guys like Joe won't get a chance to be champion probably until after WrestleMania with the way Lesnar is tracking. So do you think it's working with him showing up every few months?
I think having a feud with Lesnar is helping guys like Joe showcase what they've got, but obviously it's not giving the opportunity for others to be champions. So it's a delicate sort of situation. I mean, you could have this same sort of feud with Joe without Brock as champion, and I reckon it would still have the same effect. So I guess you could argue both ways.
Yeah.
I get, you know, Brock needs to lose to someone that will be elevated by the championship at that time, because they've gone with him, because they obviously didn't think anyone was ready to be the face of the company in terms of even Roman Reigns. They need to rebuild him. They need to build Braun Strowman, or they need to build Finn Balor, or whoever it is. And obviously Lesnar's the biggest name. So I think the part-time champion is working to an extent, but you could argue both ways, really.
Yeah, I think it's working only because it's making the title feel quite big, and Raw has enough depth to survive without it. It's not like when Lesnar was champion last time and the roster just wasn't adequate enough to fill 3 hours without a main title. I think it's only working because of the depth Raw has. So I think it'll be okay for a year, and then we'll see where it goes from there. You're right, though, that the person who takes the title from Brock has to be pretty big, and it better well bloody well not be Roman. He just doesn't need it. I think we're both in agreement that Lesnar will be feuding with Roman at SummerSlam, not WrestleMania. That seems to be what's going on.
Yeah, it seems to be. They've brought it forward more. I just think, you know, Joe, this has only been 5 weeks. I think by the end of Great Balls of Fire, it'll be 5 weeks this feud, and then it'll be done. But Joe has shown so much in the 5 weeks that he should be champion. Like, he should become champion at some stage over the next year.
Yeah. If Joe isn't feuding with Brock at SummerSlam, who should he feud with?
That's the look at it, if we think Roman's going to have SummerSlam with Brock, then which other faces are there? You've got Finn Balor, who they feuded for a long time in NXT.
Yeah.
Then you've got Seth Rollins, who's tied up with Bray, and that has to keep going, regardless of anyone's feelings towards it. That has to keep going. So there's not really much else for him. So I guess unless he goes straight to Finn Balor, or he could become a tweener and feud with Braun Strowman.
Yeah, I think Ambrose is the other option, because he'll be done with the Miz.
Okay, yeah, I forgot about Ambrose. Yeah.
So it'll either be Joe Ambrose or Joe Balor, and I'm not too keen on Joe Balor because honestly, none of their NXT matches were actually any good. They're all pretty average if we're looking at them in terms of main events of pay-per-views. So I would like to see Joe Ambrose. I think if you take Brock as this monster who pushed Brock to his limits and then have this annoying fly and Ambrose come up and try and swat him, Ambrose can also take losses to Joe, which is something Balor probably can't do as much. So I think Ambrose might be the perfect guy to go with Joe next at SummerSlam.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the crazy sort of, crazy versus crazy, I guess. Because Joe, in his own right, is crazy. I guess the one other thing that should be touched upon is the fact that, I know I was watching a What Culture video and they highlighted the fact that, might have been a podcast where Joe isn't necessarily the heel right now with Lesnar, especially with the past Raw, with the segment backstage. Video thing. He wasn't acting like a heel. He was, it was like blurred lines. So it'd be interesting to see if they could just have him sitting as a guy that doesn't care, much like Brock Lesnar is.
I'm pretty sure Joe will stay heel. It's only because Lesnar is incapable of working as a face that they're sort of keeping him with that heel edge. Because Lesnar has sort of gone beyond the need of babyface heel, sort of in the same way that Roman and Cena have. So, I think we'll see Joe staying as a heel going for probably for the majority of his entire WWE run. Anyway, the next match to discuss is the women's title match between Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks. The feud sort of isn't really a feud. It's sort of just a match that was made. Sasha won a number one contenders match and now faces the champion. It's almost the SmackDown way, keep it simple. I like it. I think it's a smart way to involve the entire roster. The need for Bayley to be involved was not there, but I guess she was. So Alexa and Sasha at Great Balls of Fire, who wins and why?
So you said you liked it. I don't like this.
Okay.
In terms of it's been, there hasn't been much build up here, and there's been nothing to suggest. But you don't want to have Sasha in the title feud right now, and by installing her in this feud, you want there to be some sort of support behind her. I don't like, she's popular and all, but there's nothing really behind this feud except for what we hear about backstage, where they might not like each other. And so there's nothing really going here. I think Bliss should win, but if Sasha wins, I don't think it makes a lot of sense because it hasn't been built up properly. I don't think it's been built up well at all. And I know, bring everyone into the equation, let Emma have a go, Dana Brooke, all of them within that gauntlet match. But I just don't think this particular feud, I think it needed to run a couple of extra weeks, build something more sustainable up before having a feud where you could go, if Sasha wins, then there's a real rivalry here. Whereas right now, I just think they're two people put together for no reason.
See, I don't mind two people put together for no reason because it almost feels like, well, she's earned the right to be number one contender, and now you have the champion, and now they have a match. It's kind of cleaner. It's more simple instead of Raw, which always tries to go over dramatic and gives us crap like the Bayley It's Your Life stuff, and always tries to go too far with the women's division and like overdoes it. So I'm okay with them sort of going back a bit here. The match itself will probably be great. Alexa and Sasha have shown pretty great chemistry in their small amount of time sharing a ring. So I think that side of it will be good. I agree that Alexa is probably going to win, only because you're right. They can't have Sasha win off such a small build-up. I don't know whether it'll continue to SummerSlam. I don't think so. I think we might be getting a triple threat at SummerSlam with Bayley being added. Maybe Fatal 4-Way if you throw Nia in there. It's just, these characters are on such a thin ice at the moment. Bayley can't take any more losses because she's broken at this point and not in the Matt Hardy good way. Sasha needs to turn heel desperately. Alexa needs a rival, but there isn't really one there. And Nia she's owning her keep, but there's nothing there for her. So the Raw Women's Division is just really out of whack right now, and I think it needs a quality match because we haven't had one on Raw for quite a long time. I mean, the Gauntlet match was great, but we haven't had a good title match on Raw since probably the middle of last year. So I think this is something that's really needed, and hopefully Alexa and Sasha can deliver that.
Hopefully, because it's hard to be invested in something that, as a fan, when you're watching, you can see it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell that they haven't really got a sense of direction. They know they want Sasha to have the title at some stage. They know they want Bliss to be one of the main people for years to come. And really, that's the only pairing they can do now without having put a story or anything behind it. So, they had Nia fight for half an hour last week, which was incredible. And they have to use that. They have to capitalise on the fact that that occurred. Because right now, that's just, it happened, fine, move on. Emma was there, move on. Dana Brooke, Mickie James. Like, no one's really doing anything in the division, which is disappointing because there's a lot of quality there, a lot of talent. So, especially with the Bayley stuff, it's hard to feel invested. So you need Bliss and Banks to really save it at Great Balls to get some momentum heading into SummerSlam.
Agreed. I think at the same time, I think the Raw division needs Asuka, and it needs it as soon as SummerSlam is over. The night after.
Which is a change of kind of what I was thinking in terms of which brand needed Asuka. I think Raw, that would suit her well. We saw the picture of them at a house show. Or was it in Japan? I think.
Yeah, it was in Japan.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess at the moment. Anyway, moving on to another title division that's a bit of a mess. The Cruiserweight division. Neville versus Akira Tozawa for the Cruiserweight title. I mean, on the pre-show, correct. Neville has probably been the best booked champion this year, but at the same time, the Cruiserweight division has absolutely zero momentum. What potential... I mean, this seems like a filler feud, so what potential does this have? I mean, pre-show means it'll get a few more minutes than it otherwise would have.
Yeah. So it's hard. Now, we were saying that Neville should be holding the title for the whole year and should be holding it for as long as possible. He'll retain here.
Absolutely.
I guess they're building up Tozawa's character by having him part of the Titus brand, which, as a sidebar, I hope they continue with that. I hope the Titus brand isn't just jobber central, because it's got the potential to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Titus has a lot of charisma himself. Cruz has started to show some stuff now paired with him. Tozawa and Cruz are best friends, so, something could be going on here. I think it'll be a great match.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously pre-show is probably disappointing for them, but those extra minutes will just help highlight how good wrestlers they are. But yeah, the Cruiserweight division is floundering a bit, partly because the Raw segment we get every week is Cedric Alexander versus Noam Dar.
Every week?
Or Alicia Fox is on the screen every week. And that would be fine, but there's nothing behind that. So they really need to find something here. Neville will retain, but I'm hoping this feud goes on because, again, it's been a few weeks only. Like, we had just got to the point where Tozawa joined the Titus brand. And then all of a sudden, it's the title match and it's the feud. So I think it has to keep going, also because no one's really ready to step up.
I disagree, only because I think Cedric Alexander versus Neville is the SummerSlam match. And I think the way that Cedric's been built up, he's been looking pretty strong across 205 Live and across Raw. And I think that's almost your money match. You got Austin Aries versus Neville was the WrestleMania money match, and now you've got this is the SummerSlam money match. And I think it's unfair on Tozawa, but he should be appearing in the normal division alongside Titus and Apollo, because I agree that has a lot of potential to grow. Next up, Enzo Amore versus Big Cass. The turn that sort of came out of nowhere. Cass not really knowing how to use a security camera very well. Anyway, so how have you seen this feud? Did it really need to be happening now?
Well, the tag team division, again, that's all over the place. Raw's just all over the place at the moment with everything that's going on. I don't think they had to split right now because, who's coming up next to feud with the tag team champions. So, and plus, they were still over as hell. Like, everyone loves Enzo and Cass. So it was bound to happen eventually because good things can't last very long in the WWE. Enzo A+ promos the past few weeks, he's been unbelievable.
Yeah.
But we could be into the last month of his relevancy in the WWE.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what's going to happen from here? Because he's unbelievable on the mic, and the promo's right. He's one of the toughest guys to go into the ring. He's not overly talented, but he puts up with a lot. Like, he cops a lot of punishment. He's a good hand, but after this feud, unless he becomes the mouthpiece of someone else, which that's going to be hard to make sense of, it's really tough to see what's going on here. So Cass will obviously win. It should probably be a squash match.
Yeah.
Because if you let Enzo look too strong, then what's the point of doing the split in the first place? The whole point is to make Cass look like a genuine star.
Yeah.
Which I think he's been unfairly treated in terms of people are saying, look, his promos haven't been good, blah, 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 blah. I think that's unfair. He hasn't been given that much of an opportunity except to attack Enzo and look strong. I think he's okay. I think he'll be okay as for what he is, and he'll turn into a star of some sort. But this has to be a squash match. What do you reckon?
Oh, it absolutely has to be a squash match. No doubt about that. It's so frustrating that Enzo and Cass never won tag team belts. It stinks of WWE wanting to, we'll hold it off for NXT TakeOver Dallas. Oh, okay, we'll hold it off for NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Oh, okay, they're on the main roster. Okay, we'll hold it off for SummerSlam. We'll hold it off for WrestleMania. And then it just never happened. And it's so frustrating because this was a team that could have made so much money in the same way that Bayley is a wrestler could have made so much money if she was used properly. And the WWE have just squandered it. They absolutely squandered it.
Unlike them.
Yeah, exactly.
With the money potential, they always make moves to make big money.
But see,
Enzo and Cass could be as big as New Day in terms of all
absolutely.
that stuff, like merchandising, and they butchered it.
The problem was they gave them nothing for 6 months. They came to the main roster. They had a quick feud, which was all right. They were white hot, and then they had nothing for 6 months. Nothing, because we just assumed, at WrestleMania, that's when they'll get their shot. And then the Hardys come back, and all of a sudden there's no room for them. Like, it's just, They just wasted it. They completely wasted Enzo and Cass. And I guess they had to break up only because, there was no point in them treading water anymore. When we get to the tag team title match, I guess we'll discuss that. But I can't see any need for heel champions anymore. I think the Hardys have to take the titles because the Revival obviously are the next challengers. But Enzo and Cass just don't have a spot. And them breaking up now, Cass obviously will go off and try and become a main eventer. I'm not sure whether he'll make it there, especially as a heel. I don't see him making it as a heel, especially when you have Braun, who's better than him at everything, it would seem. But yeah, it's disappointed me a bit. Enzo has done brilliant work, as you'd expect. From here, I can see Enzo either doing a James Ellsworth style heel or face manager role, or maybe going to the cruiserweight division. But yeah, it's a shame. It's probably the end of Enzo's relevancy unless something drastic changes. Cass wins, and who knows? Who should Cass even feud with next? Does he just go on a few squash matches to sort of establish himself as a heel? But yes, Big Show, yeah.
Big Show is the next one. But for Enzo, I think they could have just had Cass start to develop into a singles face competitor with Enzo as the manager to buy time before they could start a rivalry with the tag team.
Yeah.
Or something like that. They didn't need to split them up right now.
And Cass doesn't need to be heel right now.
Yeah, so I agree that there was nothing for them, but I disagree that they had to split them right now. They could have kept the same storyline with their brothers, and Enzo said, "I really want Cass to, go out there and really show what he can do as a singles competitor." And he's still the mouthpiece, That way they're both still relevant. They're together, still merchandise, still making money.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now, I mean, Enzo, you don't want to turn Enzo heel anywhere near right now. Like,
No.
if that happens, that has to be at least a year away. If he's still relevant a year away, I mean, his promos, like the promo from Raw this past week, that's just classic Enzo. That's A+ stuff.
Yeah.
That's absolutely tearing it apart, and that's what he does every week. So you just hope they find something for him, and it's not just a James Ellsworth style of thing, because Enzo's too good for that.
This could have been building for a year. They could have had Enzo and Cass shake hands, and Enzo be like, "Yep, I think you should be doing your best in the singles division, and I'll be here to support you." Maybe you could have Enzo have a fake injury, like a knee injury or something, that puts him on the shelf for 8 months, and he can sort of just be there alongside Cass. And then after the 8 months, you can have Cass go, "Hang on, like I'm a big star now. Why do I need you?" And then you can do the turn. Have Cass build up as a face and then switch him. Like, it's just so rushed and disappointing.
The thing about this match, I think it's going to be a way they're going to write Enzo off TV for, I mean, however long it is. So it's going to be a squash match. It's going to be something that Enzo's not going to feature for the next couple of months at least, probably.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at. But then if it's going to be Big Cass versus Big Show, you can be sure that Enzo will come out with the Big Show or something like that. Which, a Big Show doesn't even need it, because Big Show he cuts a good promo. So hopefully they find something for Enzo and they figure it out pretty quickly.
Agreed. Speaking of slightly disappointing, let's move on to Seth versus Bray Wyatt. Obviously, on paper, it seems like it would be a cool matchup, and they've never actually had a match before in singles competition, which is interesting. But has this been interesting at all?
No. I know you're not a fan of Bray at the moment. You think he's stale. I still don't mind the promos and stuff. I'm still fairly big on Bray. I think Seth is pandering too much to the audience. And I really like Seth, but it's a bit much in terms of... I remember saying like 3 months ago, whenever he was feuding with Triple H, that Seth had to be a face, but a man on a mission face. Yeah. So he had to be someone with a clear goal, and that, yes, the fans cheered for him or whatever, but he's not pandering to the fans. He's not looking for a good reaction. He's just doing what he needs to do to win feuds, or to get to where he needs to be. Whereas right now, he's getting cheap pops, he's doing all that sort of stuff, and pair that with Bray, who, yes, a lot of people think he's stale, his promos are stale, and it hasn't captivated anyone, which is really disappointing, because on paper, this would be a fantastic feud.
Honestly, Bray Wyatt has been irrelevant for a full year now. The fact that he was given the WWE title, it helped him a little bit, and having Orton by his side was great, and that was super interesting. But the very moment that he broke up with Randy Orton and they went their separate ways, Bray became irrelevant.
And he didn't turn face.
Correct, because they did it though. They turned him face after WrestleMania last year, and then he got injured and he came back as if nothing had happened. It was just so weird, because obviously clearly they had the idea to turn him face, and now they've just gotten cold feet, because Bray is so irrelevant. He's nothing that comes out of his mouth is worth hearing, because it's just the same. He could mime a promo he cut from 2013 and you wouldn't even notice. It's just such a shame, because he's obviously got the talent, but they've just done nothing with him, and there's no reason for him to be going over someone like Seth, who probably needs credibility and needs a big win. I think Seth needs the win more, only because Bray just... A win and a loss, it doesn't affect Bray anymore, because he's at that point where it doesn't matter. He's so stale. Yeah. Though I think Bray will win this match only because it's the first match probably of a 2 or 3 match feud. He'll probably use some shenanigans to beat Seth. We haven't seen Seth beat anyone of note with his new finisher, so that's something I want to see. But yeah, I think Bray wins only because this is just the start of the feud. If it is the end of the feud, if it is only a 1-match thing, then Seth obviously should be going over. But yeah, unfortunately, this needs meat. There's nothing to this at the moment, and the only way I can see this getting any traction is if you have Bray attacking Seth's personal life, but they're not going to do that. So it's just such a shame.
Yeah, I think Bray will win as well. So that's my tip. But once again, it's another example of A, WWE dropping the ball with its talent, and B, the feud's not really doing anything at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see what they do to try and make it interesting. Otherwise, this is going to be a short feud, which is not what they wanted.
No, agreed. And it's honestly beneath Seth at the moment, who should be in a feud that lets him show off his talents a bit more. Anyway, moving on to the Intercontinental Championship match, The Miz and Dean Ambrose, obviously concluding their feud here. You would assume. How does The Miz retain? I think is the better question.
Yeah, well, the fact that he's now got his own entourage, as they call themselves, it has to be something to do with them. There's got to be some sort of distraction, something along the lines there, only because it's The Miz. So he's not going to win clean without any other shenanigans. But The Miz has to win because Ambrose has to move on. This feud has to stop. While I still like Miz and Ambrose feud, even though it's been going on for 10 years now,
Yep.
it has to have something new. The only issue from now is Miz versus who for the Intercontinental Championship. This is where Seth Rollins would have been nice to have somewhere, have him run for a title, because this feud would suit him nicely at the moment, I think, with you're still trying to build him up to be credible opponents with a finishing move. So, yeah, but Miz wins, and then Ambrose Joe, like you were saying before, that probably makes the most sense.
Yeah, agreed. I like that idea. I think Miz and Seth would be a much better idea, especially when you look at SmackDown and you have Owens and AJ main eventing, like SmackDown Lives, you possibly main eventing pay-per-views over a mid-card title, and it works. And Miz is a brilliant heel, and maybe moving from Dean to Seth would be the best thing to do. They probably won't do that, though. But yeah, Miz wins, probably with help from either the Miztourage, which is like the Jobber Squad reborn. Maybe Slater turns heel and joins as well, and we have like the Social Outcasts reformed with the Miz.
Yes, that's what we're waiting to say.
Yeah. Where Miz goes from here, it is hard to ponder. Maybe they just put Finn there. Maybe we do Miz and Finn at SummerSlam, because neither one really has anything at the moment. And if it's Joe and Ambrose, then Miz and Finn would work. Finn would work with a mid-card title for a few months, have Miz chase him for a while. I think Miz is getting quite close to Chris Jericho's all-time record, and I'd be totally okay with Miz surpassing that. For now, though, I think Miz and Ambrose will put on a solid match. It'll be a solid B+. And, Miz will cheat to retain. Anyway,
as expected.
Yeah, agreed. Anyway, moving on, the one thing we didn't put on our rundown was Finn Balor and Elias Sampson. They're not actually scheduled in a match for Great Balls of Fire, but I guess it's worth talking about just a little bit. I guess they've sort of been the ones that have been left out at the moment because they don't really have anything to do, so they're feuding with each other. I think Elias has been quite good since he came to the main roster, much better than he was in NXT. The main roster environment just suits his gimmick better. It suits the way he's in-ring competitive, the way he's fought in the ring is what I'm trying to say, because NXT is more focused on the indie style rather than the WWE style, which Sampson is much better at. So I think they could have a good match. I don't know what they would do, because obviously Finn can't be losing to Elias Sampson. So if they do have a match at Great Balls of Fire, then I guess Finn would just win.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot to it. But, I agree, Sampson looks pretty good. I still would have preferred him to continue those, just, drifting around with the guitar, playing for no reason, just coming in at different times. But he's been relatively entertaining, and it's not genuine. Like, no one thinks that he's an actual competitor to Finn Balor.
No.
So obviously they've been paired together just because, as you said, they haven't got anything else to do. But, I mean, where does Sampson go after that? Who knows?
There's not really much. He probably will, I don't know, Maybe he can feud with the Titus brand. Who knows? He's like the anti-Titus brand. He's like he's a drifter. So he's not wearing the expensive suits, and who knows? Maybe Titus can try and like enter the music brand, and Elias can reject him.
But then that's like a face. That would make Samson a face in that scenario.
Nah.
So anyway, the big one's Finn Balor. So hopefully he goes on to do something good. Maybe Strowman. Who knows?
Actually, yeah, because Strowman probably will have some free time after this, so maybe Balor and Strowman. That would be interesting. That would be a good SummerSlam match, actually, but they would probably end up having to put Strowman over Finn, and I think that would actually be a good idea because you don't want to make Finn look too strong, otherwise the internet nerds will start turning on him quicker than they probably will, because it probably will happen by the end of the year. You can sort of see it on the horizon. But anyway, now let's move on to the Tag Team Championship match, which for some reason is a 30-minute Iron Man match. Sheamus and Cesaro versus the Hardys. I honestly thought it was a joke when they mentioned the 30-minute Iron Man match, but it is a real thing, and it is actually happening, so we have to talk about it. So, why is this an Iron Man match, first and foremost?
Because they've run out of ideas. I mean, I don't know. It's hard. I think you were saying you think the Hardys will win before because you need a face. I agree you need a face team to win, but I don't see the reason for Sheamus and Cesaro to drop the titles here.
Yeah.
I think they have to win. I think we're close to seeing broken Hardys. I hope we are. I hope that going 30 minutes tires them out so much that after 25 minutes or 20 minutes, they start going crazy because they're too old to go for that long. And something triggers them, I don't know. But I think Sheamus and Cesaro win this match.
But if Sheamus and Cesaro win, then who feuds with them next? And that sort of takes the Hardys out of the title picture. You could probably do Matt Hardy versus Bray Wyatt with Jeff sort of just floating around. But I don't know, because if Sheamus and Cesaro win, then what? Is it Heath Slater and Rhino who face them at SummerSlam? I feel like if the Hardys win, you can then do the Hardys.
Get one more match.
No, because then you can do the blow-off match on Raw, then do the Hardys and the Revival at SummerSlam. And then the Revival can beat the Hardys to the point where they turn broken, and then you can start doing weird stuff with them. I don't think
the Revival would suit that, though.
No, but they're a team that can actually give them a beatdown badly enough to warrant breaking Matt, if you know what I mean.
I think Sheamus and Cesaro are probably more suited to that sort of role. I mean, this feud could keep going on. It's been going on for a long time, though.
Yeah, but it's so boring.
So
it really is boring.
I'm a bit over it, so yeah. I mean, I don't know who Sheamus and Cesaro will go against, but I will pick them to win. Okay. Even though I understand your logic, I still think Sheamus and Cesaro should win because I think them as a team and as a heel team, they've done well.
Yeah, I'm sick of him. Honestly, I want Cesaro as a singles competitor. I think he's just being completely wasted right now. Sheamus is really only relevant because of Cesaro, which is, I mean, it's just the brutal truth. Unfortunately, I'm just ready for them to go their separate ways now. They don't need to.
Can you split them right now? Can you do after you've just done Enzo and Cass 3 weeks ago? No, split?
I wouldn't be splitting them. I would have them just go their separate ways. Maybe, I honestly don't know. They probably won't split up anytime soon, but I just want to see Cesaro get an actual singles run, and it won't happen, so there's no real point even talking about it. So the Hardys, this is such a weird tag team division at the moment because you've just lost Enzo and Cass. You're probably on the verge of losing Slater and Rhino. It seems like Slater might be going off on his own. You don't really know what's happening there. I feel like there's other tag teams that we've lost. I'm trying to think.
Anderson and Gallows.
Oh yeah, they're dead in the water. You've got the Hype Bros on SmackDown who are sort of breaking up. You've got American Alpha who are wrestling individually. The tag team divisions are just screwed at the moment outside of the Usos and the New Day and Fashion Police. I think they're the only 3 teams that make any sense at the moment, which is saying something.
Like the Young Bucks, couldn't you?
They need something. They need star power. They need something to freshen up the tag team division because it really is. I'm worried that this 30-minute Iron Man match towards the end, the crowd is just going to be flat for 15 minutes and then maybe hot for the last 2 minutes. Yes, the Hardys are over, but I don't know. I'm worried about this match. Anyway.
It's too long.
Oh, yeah, no.
It's way too long.
Maybe a 15-minute Iron Man match. It's not really an Iron Man match then, is it? But anyway. The final match we're going to talk about is Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman in an ambulance match. This feud has been going since January. It literally has been going since the Royal Rumble. But honestly, I am as excited for this match as I was for the very first one. This feud has been really good. I think Roman and Braun have really good chemistry. They're going to tear the house down with this ambulance match, and it's going to be hard to follow them. Honestly, I think Brock and Joe are going to have a tough time following this match.
Yeah, no, this is great. Roman Reigns still gets a tough rap, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But this has been, as you said, since January, you've obviously had a couple of injury spots for both of them to break it up.
Yeah.
And I guess this is the final match where one person gets sent away in the ambulance, and it's a metaphor of some sort. You could probably pick on that for yourself. But, so Reigns, Lesnar, SummerSlam potentially. So Reigns has to go over here.
Yeah. Agreed.
But I don't think it hurts Braun if he loses, because he's broken out completely this year. Like, he's a breakout star in 2017.
Yeah.
And he's just so dominant that you just know for him to lose this match, it's not going to be a spear and then thrown into the back of the ambulance. So
no, this will be a 25-30 minute match, you would think.
Yep, and it's going to be hellacious. It'll be an unbelievable match. I think, it's going to be one of the better matches this year, which is weird because ambulance matches aren't always fantastic.
No.
But, so I think Reigns has to win here, and this is the sort of thing that you can always come back to in the future, like this between these two. Now that they're both bona fide main event stars, like Braun's proven himself to be at that level, this is something that for years to come you can always have these two fight, like stare off at each other, and like Owens and Zayn.
Yeah. Honestly, I was going to say, completely forgot now. Anyway, thinking music. Strowman, he can afford a loss here just because he is so dominant, and I don't think that matters. And it's crazy how we are at the point, it's the middle of 2017, and people still think Roman can't wrestle. That boggles my mind that anyone can still think Roman is a bad wrestler when he is fantastic. But I think Roman has to win. If he's the one who's facing Lesnar, he can't be coming in off a loss. He can't exactly call himself the number one contender if Braun beats him. So I think whoever wins this match faces Lesnar, and it'll probably be Roman. Braun, as we probably discussed, will feud with Finn. Anyone else you could possibly see Strowman feuding with?
Seth, potentially. Depends how the feud with Wyatt goes.
Yeah.
Depends if you want to keep Strowman. You can't keep Strowman off TV anymore.
No.
So forget that point. But, Seth is the only other one I would think of. You could potentially say Ambrose, if they don't decide to go Ambrose Joe, which, as this podcast has gone on, I like it a lot. So, we'll see how it goes. But I think, Balor or Seth.
Yep, agreed. Strowman Ambrose also would be quite interesting, just from a craziness point of view. They could probably put on the match that Ambrose and Lesnar were never able to because Lesnar was a dick. Anyway, one final thing before we leave. Question without notice. What's going to happen with Kurt Angle's storyline?
That is without notice.
Throwing you right under the bus here. As always.
Triple H makes the most sense. So, Kurt Angle versus Triple H at WrestleMania.
I don't want to see that, though. That's really boring.
Is it boring, or people will be invested in it?
No, but
two legends of it.
We've got Kurt Angle back for the first time in a WWE ring. Why does he have to face guys that he's already faced 100 times? Can't we see him against guys like Finn or Seth or Rusev or just someone who...
Rusev makes sense, but Rusev isn't on.
No, but what I mean is just anyone, anything fresh. We've seen Kurt Angle Triple H a million times. We've got a cool old guy back in the ring who can still put on a damn good match because he's Kurt freaking Angle. So can't we see him with someone new? Can we see something fresh? I know it's probably leading towards Stephanie McMahon's return, like Triple H. Maybe even that will happen at SummerSlam, but
How about heel Roman Reigns?
Anyone. I would love to see Angle versus Roman. That would be a great matchup.
Could you build something around Kurt Angle and Bray Wyatt? Like, you could probably do anything.
That one I don't want to see, but anyway.
Yeah, well, you could do anything really. The best one would be Seth Rollins, just because of the moveset of both. But you can't turn Rollins heel unless you have a respectable face versus face. But you have to just keep going with Rollins as a face at the moment. But that's the match I would like to see.
Yeah.
I mean, Rusev, obviously, because that's an easy build.
Yeah.
But in terms of pure skill, apart from wanting to see AJ versus Kurt,
absolutely.
Rollins is making most sense.
Agreed. So I guess we'll wrap it up there for the Great Balls of Fire edition of the Glorious Wrestling podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If anyone is still listening, thank you for listening to all 40 minutes of this. You can follow us on Twitter at GloriousWP to hear me raging about Tamina and Jinder, and sometimes Bray, and sometimes being positive about other things. You can follow Dem on Twitter at
DemP_9.
But don't follow him. You can follow me on Twitter at Nic Negropontis. Thank you for tuning into the Glorious Wrestling Podcast, and we will see you for our SummerSlam video probably in a few weeks.